Will Morton is a senior at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. He is double majoring in peace, war, and defense and global studies with a focus on Russia. And today, let's see if I can pull it up.
Up in Smoke, right?
Today, we'll be talking about the Irish brain drain.
Awesome.
Yes, Up in Smoke, exploring the mess of Ireland's GDP and the reality of mass immigration. So I will turn it over to you now.
Thank you so much. I'd also like to add onto my resume, which is funny because it's the same resume I've used for 3 years now. I'd like to add that I'm now a TAM. I've now accepted TAM. I'll be TAM in the fall. All right, Up in Smoke, exploring the myth of Ireland's GDP and the reality of mass immigration. I thought 2 years of the Balkans was enough. I need to start looking around the world. And I originally just started to understand why the population of Ireland currently is still smaller than it was before the famine in the 1800s. But as I started to do more research into this, I found like new pathways, and I backed away from the famine narrative a little bit because it's so difficult to talk about the famine given the absolute devastation of it and all the political implications of it and the disputed history of it between England and Ireland. So we just backed up a little bit. I want to talk about why Ireland has the second greatest GDP per capita in the world while having so many issues with people leaving. So just for the starters, for my disclaimer, this presentation is not meant to be an example of exceptionalism. All the issues in this presentation are certainly something that Ireland is facing, and I would say that Ireland is facing some of them worse than other countries or their contemporary developed peers. But that doesn't mean that this is just a dunking on Ireland presentation. I wanted to talk about this and try to look at the research question, which is where is this discrepancy coming from, and try to understand it better. So some statistics, as you can see, 70% of Irish youth in 2022 are considering leaving Ireland, according to a massive polls. And if you can see on right here, doesn't show up on that screen. Right here, oh no, back. Okay, right here, more immigrants are leaving Ireland than Irish people are returning it. And this is not immigrants; these are immigrants. I don't know how to pronounce that. Immigrants, but that basically means people that are leaving. So world's second richest country. As you can see down here in 2023, the second richest country in the world, according to GDP per capita, is Ireland above Luxembourg. Now, we'll get to why that is, but there are some very similar reasons why Luxembourg and Ireland are the number one and number two richest countries by GDP per capita. Here you can see that the UK has totally been taken over by Ireland, almost a double percentage. And what's interesting about this one is that, so this is the total GDP per capita accumulated growth overall from 1980 to 2013. So of course, Korea and Taiwan and Singapore and Hong Kong would be the top ones. But after you get outside of what used to be extremely poor colonies, and as they transition from colonialism to now rich Asian states, the first non-Asian country that falls into that category is Ireland, with a 161% GDP per capita growth in all those years. So trying to understand why this is happening, these are the more realistic numbers. So let me explain this a little bit. Ireland, this is Irish GDP versus modified gross national income. So when you take out multinational corporation profits, you'll find that the Irish GDP, I have a more distinct statistic on the next one, you'll find that the Irish GDP almost halves if you cut out the multinational corporation prospects. And then this is another thing. So this is the GDP. As you can see, the GDP is rapidly increasing, but this is the actual amount of private consumption expenditure in Ireland, meaning like the amount of money, the percentage of growth and the amount of the GDP has gone up since 2015, and the percentage of growth and how much money that people are actually spending within the country of Ireland. So, as you might be able to guess, as I mentioned Luxembourg, the reason why this is happening is Ireland is a massive tax haven. Ireland is actually one of the biggest tax havens in the world, if not the largest in the world, not by tax haven by the percentage of their taxes, because their taxes are obviously higher, but because Ireland is an English-speaking country and it is in the EU, it is seen as more of a incentivized tax haven than normal. So before accounting for other incentives, the corporate tax rate of Ireland is 12.5% when compared to the world weighted average of 25.67%. Ireland experienced a 26% growth in GDP just in the year of 2015, the largest ever in post-war Europe. And that was when Apple moved all of their intellectual property to be inside of Ireland. So Ireland's GDP is almost 40% lower when you remove multinational corporations. And as I mentioned, the top 10 US companies make up 60% of Irish corporate tax. In fact, 4 out of the 5 world's largest pharmaceutical companies are based in Ireland. And what they do is they don't just base their corporation, they base their intellectual property rights there. So they actually closed the loophole in like 2021, or it was caught in like 2016. Ireland is like a constant revolving door of loopholes, unfortunately. There was a loophole for a while there that you may have heard of Apple getting fined hundreds of millions of euros. And that's because Ireland and the Netherlands were combining together to make a loophole that allowed Apple to pay $0 in taxes for several years. So housing crisis. So what are the actual issues affecting Ireland that is causing people to want to leave? So there's a huge housing crisis in Ireland right now. It's very problematic. Just some quick statistics from here. In Dublin, the price of rent has doubled in the last 10 years. 58% of houses that are being developed in 2022 were being bought up and developed by investor funds. 68% of people in their late 20s live with their parents in Ireland. And then this is another interesting statistic to me. To end the housing crisis by 2027, while accommodating for students, 62,000 units would need to be built yearly. And yet only 32,000 are being built or made last year. So they have a super massive housing shortage. But housing prices are up worldwide, and it's certainly not a unique thing to Ireland. It's just exceptionally bad there. So medical immigration, this is really interesting. So in 2022, 62% of doctors obtaining their medical license in Ireland claimed they wanted to move out of the country upon graduation. And you'll see that the majority of them do. Now, there's this like idea of getting your medical degree in Ireland and then moving to Australia and then coming back, but then that doesn't always happen. You'll see that there's these massive shortages. The statistic I thought was most illuminating of this is right here. And it's in 2022, 442 of around 725 recent doctor graduates were issued work visas for Australia. So Australia is poaching a huge number of Irish doctors that are graduating. And then more than a third of the doctors say that doctor shortages are affecting their mental health and are becoming threats, pushing them to new careers. And some of them also said it's becoming a threat to safety. Public. The cost of living crisis in Ireland. This is something you see in the United States too, and especially in places in Europe. In 2022 and 2023, the price of energy was double that of in 2020. When accounting for price increases for everything in Ireland, Irish households spend about an extra $8,100 per year compared to before September 2021. Grocery prices are 30% up. Oh, I thought this was interesting as well. According to this charity, in 2024, they found that 40% of Irish parents reported having skipped or reduced their meals so their children could eat properly. Student struggles. Students are struggling under the housing crunch in Ireland right now. In April of 2023, a survey found that 1/3 of Irish students say they're in serious trouble. In 2023, a little under half of international students shared a room with 3 or more people. A room, not just an accommodation. 66% of international students claim the housing is affecting their mental health. And last year, multinational jobs in Ireland declined with the tech layoffs. for the first time in the sector since 2009. So between this and this, what we're seeing is it's kind of like a paradox where you have people leaving to find better jobs in other countries and people are leaving to get their education in other countries and then they're staying in that country. And it's kind of like a circular problem because if you don't have the strong educational background, then you have less people having opportunities to get like high paying and professional jobs in the country. But I like this. It gets better. Like Ireland is seriously working. There's a pot of gold in the end of the rainbow, so to speak. Ireland is seriously getting better, and they recognize all these issues. So housing production increased 10% last year. Irish energy companies are cutting their prices. Eventually, like 60% of people that graduated in 2011 eventually came back, and overall Irish unemployment rate is still very low. So, conclusion, there are inconsistencies with the projection of the Irish GDP and the lived experience of the average Irish citizens. Ireland's tax haven status leads to numbers that obfuscate the reality of living in Ireland. However, Ireland is putting in a serious effort to address their issues, and the current influx of immigrants offsets the number of people leaving it annually. There's still a net positive population in Ireland right now because of their large immigrant presence. And my citations.